But Olivia, so good to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's always been so good working with you on different things and stuff. You talked at our last event about a year ago, and really your story was funny, but also very moving too. And so people really walked away from it feeling so many like emotions and stuff. And I heard it was especially with yours too. Your story that you shared about cancer and about it just made people laugh, but also made them cry too. So you hit all the emotions. So it's really nice to be able to be on your podcast.
Thank you so much, Olivia. I really appreciate your kind words. And I remember you opening that fundraiser for human beats cancer, and I think it's been during COVID, of course we were all online, but it's just been such a beautiful thing to be there and to see all these amazing people there for this great cause. And you put so much care, Olivia, into everything that you do. Like you really pour your heart into
Well,
all of
thank you.
this, and it really comes across. And it obviously it makes a difference for your incredible cause. But I want to ask you, how does it feel for you, right? Because I think it's a big part of it is, how does it also make you feel on the inside?
Yeah. 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 So a little bit about me, I guess. I had cancer first, breast cancer, stage 2 in 2015. And then in 2017 created Humor Beats Cancer, which is a nonprofit that encourages using humor and writing as coping tools to deal with cancer. And so we also do funny care packages for people going through cancer. We have a grant program, and we do open mics where people read their funny stories either virtually or in person. And then we also um, try to think of interesting ways on social media to get people's attention and to get them to share funny stories and to connect so they feel less alone. And so for me, it's really been, I don't know, it's I when I had cancer the first time, and so then I was diagnosed again in last fall, so 2021, and this time it's stage 4, and it's metastasized to different organs and such. But so it has different meanings depending on where I'm at in my cancer journey. And so when I was in remission, it really was about how can I take my experience and try to find ways to make people feel less alone and to get them to laugh when that's the last thing they could possibly think about doing. And usually that's through kind of, crude humor and people just like having a good time. And showing, and the real point of it is to show two things: to show people that they can feel alive while having cancer, that they're not gone and they're still here living, and also just to connect people who feel alone. And so for me, that's what it's done for me, is it really has reminded me of, I'm going through the beginning stages of stage 4, and it's interesting to learn about people who've been going through it for years, and it gives me hope, and it makes me think, okay, well, I know this, if someone would have told me, stage 4 cancer, I would have been, freaking out and thinking, and I still do this, but like, I get that you can live with it, and it can be like something that you live with. And sometimes it's not, sometimes it hits you, you find out you have stage 4 and you have a few months to live. And so, but it shows that there's more than just one way of cancer happening to a person. And it can affect you in different ways. So it makes me understand it a little bit better, and also feel less alone, and feel like there's a chance that I can keep fighting and keep doing what I can to stay alive. And so, but it also just I really believe that this group of people, kind of ages like 20 to 45, for example, people don't focus on them and their cancer enough. There's a lot of support for, you know, childhood cancer, as well as a lot of, for the elderly and older people who are going through cancer. But this middle group seems to kind of get lost sometimes in the middle of everything. And it seems that they don't really know how to deal with this group of people when they have cancer, because I mean, these are people who are still working and who need to work. They have built up a savings or built up a lot of, ways to pay for their treatment, and they still have to work. They maybe want to have kids or date, and it's all happening at the same time that they have cancer. And so that too has been helpful to me to know that, while the medical community may not be looking at this group of people as closely as they can, our nonprofit at least can bring everybody together to talk about things that upset them, things that they wish were different, or to ask questions. This is happening to me. What should I do? And people to provide their own just perspective. I mean, we're not doctors, but like to say, when my feet started, peeling, this is the kind of stuff I did. So, because like there are so many things I didn't realize would affect cancer, and so yeah, so that's it's just really been it's been supportive to me, and also just makes me happy to know that I can help people in some tiny way, and makes me feel like my life is I did something good for people, and I that's always been my goal in life, is I just really want to help people in some way, and help people feel less alone, because I've felt alone times through my life. So that's really what it's done for me.
That's beautiful. It just speaks to my heart, and I'm so glad you brought up, I guess, this whole young adults going through cancer and experiencing the sense of being alone. Because oftentimes when like cancer hits you at this time, it's like you say, it's life interrupted, because you're going on some kind of a
Yes.
journey, and then just something just throws you off, and all of a sudden you have to completely change things around, and
Right.
you're not in a place where people around you, and maybe when you're older, you're not in a place where people around you, they understand how to deal with grief, they understand how to deal with difficult times. It's a different situation. So what do you think, because obviously you've seen a lot of folks, young adults in the 20s and 30s and 40s go through cancer. What do you think that we have in common?
I just think we have in common that, like, we have so many more dreams ahead of us. We have so many more life stages ahead of us, and just as you said, that's a great way of putting it. It's like life interrupted. It's just really and it's. I mean, there's just a lot of like sadness, honestly. I mean, there's people who maybe you went to college and you're like, I'm going to be this when I'm done college, and then boom, you get hit with cancer, and so then you have to put that on hold while all of your friends are kind of advancing during the highlights of life, having kids, dating, marriage, promotions at work, things like that. All of that gets put on hold, and we're living in this limbo of, you know, should I date? No or yes. I mean, should I go? Should we have children? Yes or no? I mean, it's and there's the even like if they get married while they're going through cancer treatment, it's probably you didn't want to be bald if you're a woman at your wedding, and so but that's and then because I think for these other groups like particularly like those who get cancer older in life have had a chance to do all those things and have had a chance to see their children grow up or even meet their grandchildren, where there's so many families who lose one of their loved ones when maybe their kids are 2 or 3 or 4, and so they will know a totally different situation, and the kids will miss out on stuff and the parents will miss out on things. And so I just think what connects us all together is that limbo, like that not knowing how our life is going to be. And I know that nobody knows what's going to happen with them or if they're going to get hit by a car tomorrow or whatever, but it's still just, it really does. If you're like immobile almost, because it's hard to make decisions. It's like, should I, at the start, when I found out I had stage 4 cancer, one of the doctors said, I was like, so how serious is this? And they were kind of unkindly said that, well, maybe you should start working on that bucket list. And I felt like that was such a horrible thing to say to someone, but people don't think like that's what they should say or not say. And so, yeah, I think that that's what it is that we're just all in this time of indecision where we could trying to stay alive, but also want to be living life like our family and friends are.
Yeah, so true, Olivia. And it's, I think you describe it beautifully, because it's you are stuck in this kind of in between land, right? You're
Yeah.
constantly in between things. And I think the other thing that I just remember coming home after like my operation and chemo, and I remember like feeling so overwhelmed, and things that really made sense before, they certainly don't make sense now. So you kind of have to reinvent yourself, at least
Yeah.
once, right? And,
Yeah. Right.
and this reinventing process, like you have to find something again that you can be connected to, something that you're passionate about. So and that's why I kind of want to ask, because you went through this process, and uh, uh, you found your way to create Humor Beats Cancer. But how did you lead up to it? Like what made you think about what to do next?
Yeah. I mean, so before, no, I guess it would be after I was diagnosed the first time. I started, I started thinking about my life and how I didn't feel like I was doing enough. And so I started first just volunteering, and not cancer related volunteering, but just working with people who are poor, or need food, or people who are trying hard to, raise their kids in a poor community. And I started, volunteering with them and really trying to help. But then, as I was going through cancer treatment, I kept seeing these like funny situations happen, that I just thought were kind of, dark humor, kind of funny things and stuff. And so I wondered if any other people had been seeing those kinds of things. And so I took a stab, and I decided, okay, well, I'm going to create this nonprofit, and I'm going to start it off with just a blog. And then it just started growing, and I started thinking up ideas, because I'm always trying to like create projects, and there are so many projects I've worked on that just failed or didn't, but I kept trying. And I just kept thinking, like, and then I just really believed in this idea, and I just kept, talking about it so much. And so finally I'm like, I'm just I'm going to try it. And then it just kept growing. Like I was like, okay, well, when my mom passed away, we said, instead of giving money or giving flowers, if they could give money to create a grant program in her name through Human Beats Cancer. And so we were able to do that. And then care packages, I realized, like, there are so many care packages that are just so not useful. They're like just a bunch of branded materials that don't really help in any way. So I started thinking about, well, what would I want if I was, wanted a care package? And so I tried to make it more special, funnier, and more appropriate for our age group than what I've seen other places do. And so I started doing that. I really didn't want, when I got cancer, I received this book, and I just had lilies on it, and it looked like it was like, here's your roadmap to dying. And it was like, and I just did not want to have that vibe. So we stay away from, a lot of lilies everywhere, and pink, and like all this stuff. And we're more like bright, and, primary colors and things like that, to show that, like, we can talk to you at your age, and we could talk to you in a way that we use profanity. Most of these nonprofits don't even do that. Oops, that's my dog. Sorry.
Right.
Most of them don't do those kinds of things. So um, I really think that's what got me started. And then I just feel like it's been successful, and it keeps growing, and I just know that it's doing good, and that's all I can ask for, is for it to be doing good.
I think it's such a beautiful thing. First of all, that you said that you've done a lot of things, and so many of them failed, because it's so true, right? I mean,
Yes.
we do things, and we have dreams, and we have ambitions, and sometimes they don't work out, and that's
No.
part of life, right?
Yeah, and I think that that's also like kind of a message for people going through cancer, is that, like, isn't that how, the doctors treat it? Like, we try a medicine or a treatment for a while, and if that doesn't work, we go to the next thing. And so that's kind of how I've operated through life a lot, is that I have trouble giving up on ideas and things that I really feel passionate about. So I keep trying different ways, like, and I just I'm getting closer to getting it right the first time, but like usually it takes like 5, 6 times before I can make something how I truly see it in my head and stuff. So I think that's like the message is just don't give up on anything. And I think, maybe it doesn't mean that we're gonna all be cancer or I'm gonna be cancer, but at least it makes life more fun to really be, and that you have some sort of control over something. And I think so starting a project or making jewelry or knitting scarves or things like that are all things that people could be doing while they're sitting in a chemo chair or whatever. And that might make them feel good and like they're contributing something to the world. Whether it's just to make 1 or 2 people smile, that's great. That's perfect. That's the thing to do. And I know it can be hard when everybody's so tired, because I'm tired all the time. But you hope that the positivity will give you energy and it'll help carry you through.
Yeah, exactly, Olivia. It's so powerful what you say, because it really connects you with what it is that helps you to get through a difficult time, and connects you with something that just lights you up in some way, and gives you that energy at the time when you probably need it the most. And also, like, I find it really inspiring how you talk about that you started. I mean, you started from just like taking the first step, and then it leads you towards something else, and then it leads you to something else, and it's probably leads you to a place where you didn't really plan out to be. You didn't have this, this project plan mapped out. You kind of had
Right,
this,
right.
maybe just you started with something, and just kept growing, like you say, right? So it doesn't have to be this
Yes.
overwhelming thing, right?
Yes, which is something I've learned over the years, because I'd think of a project and then I would never start it because I was always overwhelmed thinking of like the next step or the end goal. And I'm like, how am I ever going to get there? And so I'm trying to be better about that. And I think Human Beats Cancer is a good example of me taking it step by step, because, sometimes I'm like, oh, we're not as big as the other organizations, or we're not doing this or that and stuff. And so it's really hard not to compare yourself, but that does really no good to like compare yourself, because everybody's on like a separate journey on their projects. And so I'm trying to be more kind to myself and not being like, come on, Olivia, get your ass in gear. Come on, And so it's definitely been an interesting journey with Human Beats Cancer.
Exactly. And I'm so glad that you brought this up, Olivia, because it's so special. And I think that's what we do in our age as well, is like we end up comparing ourselves to other people, where they're at,
Mhm.
where they're going. And you gotta find ways to be more kind to yourself, and not like
Yeah.
beat yourself up, or saying, well, this person's got this, and I might be in a place where I'm struggling. I don't have what they're having. What helps you to be more kind to you?
It's hard. It really is hard because I'm really tough on myself. Like I'm a type A personality through and through from a baby on up. I've always been, but I think it helps. I have a really solid group of wonderful friends and loved ones who I just really lean on. And sometimes they have to remind me, they have to be like, Olivia, it's fine. You're doing a lot. You're doing enough. And I also go to therapy, and that's also reinforced there too, because for so long, like I would kind of ruin fun things that I accomplished because I'm thinking, well, it was okay, but it could be better. It could always be better and stuff. And so I think it's having people around me remind me of the good that I'm trying to do, and remind me that I am making a difference. Like it doesn't have to be, I don't have to be Oprah, but I can try to take some of Oprah's lessons and use them to my benefit and stuff. And so but yeah, it's about, and it's also just about remembering the good times and remembering, oh, okay, I had a really great experience at this event, and I feel like others did too. And so that this was a good day. And so, but it's really hard. I think my advice for anybody going through something similar is just to have a strong group of people around you who are there to remind you during those times when you get down on yourself. And then also just to really, keep little notes on your mirror that say, you're awesome, or you can do this, or like, I think that's been really helpful. I have like 3 or 4 on my mirror right now. And I know other friends who do that too, because that's like, when you look in the mirror in the morning, you could see those and be like, yes, this is how I'm going to start my day. But I don't want to pretend to be good at this, because this is really hard for me, but I really try. I really try. And I think that's some of the ways I try.
That's what makes you perfect, Olivia. Because, and I think I love this advice, putting stuff on the mirror, because it's real. It's real because
Yeah.
that's where you look, and you look at yourself. And to me, it's been almost a revelation at one point of my life to look at myself in the mirror and tell myself good things about me, right?
Right. Right.
It's hard, isn't it? Like sometimes
Yeah.
you gotta
It's
say good things to yourself.
It is. It's so hard. It's so much easier for me to compliment someone or to try to lift someone up, that I don't think about doing that for myself. There's some sort of saying, I can't remember who said it, but something would you let the way you talk to yourself, would you let people talk to your friends that way? So like if you're down on yourself and you're beating yourself up, but then but if you saw your friend doing that, you would stop them and say, no, you're amazing, you're great, you're doing a wonderful job. And we have to treat ourselves just like we treat our friends and our loved ones. We have to, celebrate ourselves too. And so and not in like a cocky way, but just in a way that makes you happy to still be alive. And I think that's super important for people going through cancer, because it's real easy to come down on yourself in life. I mean, there are many days when I have a bad day and I'm just like, I just don't know if I can like get up and work and then do all these things and stuff. And then it's just like telling yourself either today's not the day to do them, or maybe do one thing and maybe that'll help you show that you accomplished something for the day and stuff. So those are some things I try to do, because I don't want to have cancer. It's slowing me down and I don't want to be slowed down. I want to keep moving. I want to keep doing things. And I hate that cancer makes that more difficult to do.
Exactly. And I love this one thing a day. And I've also arrived at this, Olivia, as well, is focusing on getting one thing done every day. And sometimes it's something that I'm really proud of. And sometimes it's like taking a shower or whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be some epic thing, but then you feel like, oh, I've done it. I also want to circle back to what you said, like when, to talk about it with your friends and family, because that's not an easy thing to do either sometimes, right? Sometimes you have people around you, but like talking about things like difficult moments is hard. I mean, sometimes you don't know how to put things. Sometimes you don't want other people to feel awkward or weird about it, right? So, but it's so vital to find ways to talk about, going through a difficult time with people around you. I mean, that's what they're there for, right?
Yeah. Well, and for me, it's hard. Like when this all went down in the fall and then also got worse at the beginning of the year, all my friends were like, what can we do? What can we do? And it was so hard for me to think of because I like to be, self-sufficient. And so it really was about trying to find little things that I can ask people to help me with. Oh, could you, get my groceries, or could you carry my packages up that are at the front desk, and things like just little things like that. And people really felt good and it felt like they were helping. And I realized that it's important not just for me, but for them too, because they don't want to just be helpless. And I think that has been an important lesson I've learned the second time around that maybe I didn't understand before. And but that's been a real challenge, but it's definitely something that's been helpful, is just to include friends and family into my journey in different ways. And I can't say I do it well every time, but I'm trying for sure.
And it's super empowering, because exactly as you say, the people who truly care about you, the people who really care about you, they will be so grateful, right? When you ask them to do something, because as you say, it gives them an opportunity to step up, to be there for you in a meaningful way. And it also prevents help that you don't want, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, because if you don't share what you need, you're going to get random stuff that you don't need. And so it's definitely about really little things. Like it's so funny to me because I was like, it's difficult or to think of things, but then even just like a ride somewhere or to a doctor appointment or something like that, it can, switch it up a little bit and can bring someone else into this journey with us and stuff. And, it's fun. And I've also learned that my friends, like there's different things that they're good at, like there's different things, like certain friends are good for, crying together on the phone. Certain people are really good about, let's pick up and go away for a weekend. Or there are certain friends who just want to make, really good cooks and want to make a meal for you, or just, there's just all kinds of different support, and together all that support can be so helpful. I just didn't realize how wonderful. I mean, I love my friends, but they've gone to just like a whole new level of being there for me and checking in on me, and just like it's just wonderful. And for people who don't have any sort of friends, or maybe they're completely alone, I think that reaching out to some of the organizations they like, reaching out to us. I mean, we'd love to send them a care package, check in on them, occasionally, any of that kind of stuff. And so I think that there are people out there who want to help and want to be there for us, but it's hard to see when there's so much shit in our life, it's just
Yeah,
so hard to see it.
absolutely. Because and I'm so glad that you bring this up, to go out and get connected, get connected with like Human Beats Cancer, other organizations that you believe in, that makes you feel not alone, because that's how, like that's what I think is one of the critical things about what can support us and help us, and hearing other people's stories. I think just the fact alone that other people are going through similar things, I really
Mhm.
look at everything that you I see from Human Beats Cancer on your blog, or whether it's the socials, and these little bits where people say some inappropriate things, and people share that because it's hilarious, or it's
Yeah.
awkward, or it's inappropriate. It's what helps us to understand, what, like, it's not just me who's had this story, but it's other people. I've seen that as well, and that in itself is just such a huge thing, isn't it?
It is. And it's so funny because you do think, at least I thought, well, I'm the only one to have experienced this thing. And then all of a sudden you're like 12, 15, 20 people are like, oh my God, that same thing happened to me too, and stuff. And so it definitely, like, we may start out as, with a humorous thing, but then like it often turns serious where people are getting tips from each other over social media and they've never met each other. I mean, there's so many people who celebrate people's accomplishments in dealing with cancer, who they've never met in person and they don't know. And so it's just, I think that's the coolest thing. When people bash social media, I always say, well, there are positives in it too. And I think that this is a positive, that people all over, I mean, like you and I would never have connected. I mean, we're in completely different places, but we've done that because of Humor Beats Cancer. And I think there's so many other stories like that, where people may only know each other virtually, but they helped save someone from either living out the rest of their life in despair, or just to get through this moment in their life. And so it just depends on the person and the type of cancer and what's going on with them. But yeah, I just think it's amazing. I just think, like, I don't know what we would have done without social media during COVID. I don't know what we would have done without social media during cancer and during all these things. I just think it really brings people closer together when used right.
It's so true, Olivia, and thank you for that reminder, because I remember, when the whole COVID thing started. I mean, because if you go through cancer, you're used to this kind of isolation. Because
Yes.
I was like, I used to jump across the street when I was going through chemo when I saw the person walking toward me. So I was isolating before it was cold. you
Yes.
know so and it's so true. So we're used to this world anyway, and sometimes that's one of the few things that you can do is to contact someone online, or on video, or somehow on
Right.
socials, where you can interact with them, because you probably sometimes you don't feel safe interacting with people
Right.
in real
Right.
life, right?
Right. No, I love when I see like conversations about and it's not like from medical opinions. It's more like, I'm dealing with, say, these side effects from this drug. What would you recommend? And then just see like all these creative things people have done after, trying things and this not working, and okay, I'll try this. And then you find like something so strange works. And then you try it and you're like, oh my God, this helps me so much and stuff. And so I really think that is just beautiful,
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it's a huge part of it is also learning to tell your story, right? Because I think a part of it
Yeah.
is what can be really helpful is finding a way to share your story, whether that's whether that's on social media, whether that's doing some sort of a project, like, I don't know, writing a book, or I know you've got your beautiful posts on your blog with people sharing their experiences, right? This, and I know it's such a big deal for you, like storytelling.
Yeah.
So what are some of the thoughts that you have, Olivia, around like how do you tell your story in a way? Maybe you're going through cancer, you've been through it, or you have a loved one who's dealing with it. How do you how do you put it into words?
Yeah, I mean, well, for me, it is using humor a lot of times, because I want people, when I'm telling them, to not be so turned off by me and the subject that we never talk about it again, and they start avoiding me. And so I always find that right? I mean, some people are like, oh my God. So
Yeah.
that's a lot for a Monday coffee conversation. And so I try to, I'm honest about it, but I'm also like to, put some humor in there to kind of take the tension out of the room. I mean, it is serious what we're all going through, and there's no reason to make light of it, or to really make it seem like it's not a big deal, because it is a big deal. But I do try to kind of, if I'm writing it down, or if I'm telling someone, I tell somebody the seriousness of it, but then I also share some of the funnier stuff too. Like, there's just weird things that happen to your body and to you, and if you're, depending on how close you are with the person, that's kind of the stuff I'll share. But yeah, and I think that's where I want mine to be different from other organizations, is that I didn't want it to be just about the sad stories. I wanted it to be about what life is like for people, truthfully, and like, the funny things, as well as like the things your kid says about you at school because you have cancer and stuff like that. And so that's what kind of makes us a little different, is that I think some organizations really like to focus in on, let's, tell me your sad story. And I don't know if that's as helpful as it seems to cancer patients, because then you go deeper and deeper into that hole of depression, and you feel like that's all you are is cancer. Whereas if you're sharing it and you're sharing humorous stories, people can relate more, I think. And I think that helps spread the word a bit more about cancer, and to talk about that, everybody doesn't like die from cancer. Some people do go into remission, and some people do last a long time, and so it's really about, I want people to get educated on cancer who maybe don't know, and they can do that through me. I think that's a great idea.
Yes, absolutely. And it was a beautiful reminder that I realized why I've been turning some people off, I guess, at that certain part of my cancer journey.
Yeah.
having probably too deep and meaningful conversations about it, when maybe talking about other things can be better, because I can be more healing. And sometimes, like you say, I think it's really important when we talk about kind of the humorous side of cancer, not because it's great, but because
Yeah.
it's fine in this awkward way. But it also gives us permission, I think, to also talk with people more openly about things that are not related to cancer. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I do. I think it opens up. I feel like when we get cancer, this like bubble comes up, and a lot of time like comes around us, and it separates us from the rest of the world. And I like to try to pop the bubble and say, you know what? I'm still, watching Bravo reality shows. I'm still eating way too much ice cream. I'm still doing all these other things. I'm still me. Cancer is just one piece of me. And it's an important piece because it can often be a life or death piece. But it's not all of me. Like I still enjoy going to concerts. I still enjoy, junk food. I still enjoy work. I'm still, those are things. And I do think that sometimes we don't often help our cause in a way, because it's like we talk about it in such a negative way that people don't think there's any hope to, living. And so I really think it's about talking more about cancer in ways that are relatable to people, not just to make them feel comfortable, but for us to be brought back into society sometimes. Because I do feel like I think, to your point though, about COVID, I think that actually was strangely, just the conversations about COVID helped our cause, because people finally got what it was like to have to be stuck at home and, isolated from people like you described. And they know what it's like. They have to go to the doctors a bunch of times, and you have to go, because some people who got COVID had to go to the doctor. Like, I feel like it really like showed a lot of people who have not had any exposure to illness what it's like for us. And I think that is a positive side effect of COVID, when there's so many negative parts. And I think that that's how I look at cancer. There has to be some positives, something that's going to help the next group of people going through cancer. That's something that we all can do. And I think that is talking about it more in a relatable way with others.
Exactly, because there's so much about it. When you talk about something that happens, you're also in the process of kind of redefining yourself, redefining how you see the world, right? Because it changes your body, it changes the way that you feel, it changes the way that you look at life. And the process of sharing your story, doing something that you might feel passionate about, that somehow excites you, trying to make a difference in your own way, in whatever way that is, that helps us to kind of redefine ourselves and get, I don't want to say comfortable, but get okay with living in whatever your reality is. And ultimately, so that you can feel good about yourself.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It's just, there's just so much to cancer beyond the diagnosis and the treatment that I don't think we talk about enough. Like, I feel like whether we live or die, those of us who have had cancer will forever be changed. There's going to be things about us that's different, and there's going to be things that we appreciate differently, and the things in life that we think about more and stuff like that. And I think that is really, it can be a gift, because I think for me, like, I didn't really get that I wasn't giving back enough to the world in some way until I got cancer. And then I was dealing with it, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I need to do so. I was sick of myself. Like, I was sick of, like, when you're in cancer, it's all about you all the time. Like, it's like, and then you're done with the treatment, and then you're like completely alone, and you're like, okay, now there's nobody here at all. Nobody cares. And so I think that it showed me that by doing these little things, that I could still have a meaningful place in this world. And I think regardless if I have cancer or not. And so I think that was important.
It's beautiful, Olivia, and that's so inspiring, because, as you say, it finds you a place to give, to get a sense of belonging beyond yourself. And I think that's so vital on our journeys to cancer, to find that sense of something, of belonging to something that you care about, and finding a way to make sense of life beyond cancer.
Yeah, because it's really hard. You're like, I feel like that's all I think about is cancer. And I'm trying to, and so by doing Human Beats Cancer, it helps take the focus off on me, and helps me focus on other people in a different way, but, still related to what I'm going through. But like, I think that's a big reason why I just feel, and I feel like people who get involved with us and who like share their thoughts and stories are really, I see that in them too. I feel like they're very joyful people, generally speaking. And like, they don't they don't want to just sit and like stew in their in their cancer story. They want to really make the most of their life, no matter how long it is. 'Cause I feel like that's another thing cancer gives us. It reminds us like everybody's going to pass away at some time, but like you don't think about it if you're healthy. You just assume you're going to live forever. And so I think we're given the gift of like a reminder that life is precious and life is short, and that we only have so many times to do good in the world, or to love our loved ones. And so now is the time. I mean, don't wait to say the things that you've been wanting to say to someone you care about. Like, do it now, like, because you just don't know. You don't know what's gonna happen to anybody. And so that's what I keep trying to remind myself too.
And that's a beautiful thing, Olivia. I want to thank you so much for being here, so much for sharing this, and for what you do in the world, because I think it's so vital.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Yeah, it was a great conversation. So thank you.